The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Let me tell you what's going on as I'm recording this. It's like 97 degrees, and I'm in my office where I record these things. And my dog, who's almost 16, okay, so she's a million years old and then some, and I have a lot of patience. Accidents happen, but she peed on the floor of my office, and the combination of that, which I did clean up, and the odor, it's not fun in here today, guys. Speaking of pets, nice segue. Ricky Gervais recorded an announcement. He's interested in some pet legislation in the UK. Let's listen.
Dogs really need your help. Dog theft is up. Thousands of dogs every year are now being stolen from gardens and parks. And the crime is treated the same as if that person stole a possession, of, like a bag or a phone, which is ridiculous because there's no deterrent. The sentence isn't right because a dog isn't an inanimate object that can just be replaced. A dog is a member of the family, so you need to change this law to make it a real deterrent. Please help.
And while we're starting on serious topics today, Jon Stewart had a message for veterans or the families of veterans about something called the PACT Act, and I'll let Jon explain.
Hey, it's Jon Stewart. I got a little message here for anybody who served and was exposed to any kind of toxic materials, Agent Orange, burn pits, and all these other things. They've passed the PACT Act, which expands medical benefits to survivors and veterans and medical care. Please file for those benefits. And if you do so before August 9th, then you're eligible to get those benefits backdated 1 year to when the PACT Act passed August 10th, 2022. You can file for benefits under the PACT Act anytime, but if you do it by August 9th, or even just go to va.gov/PACT Act and say intent to file, that'll hold your spot. But if you do that, you can get it done. That's for anybody exposed to, any theater of war that has terrible toxic things, or military bases, or even just if you've been through Jersey, just driven through, I don't know that would qualify you, but it should!
A documentary about women who accused Louis C.K. of sexual harassment and the consequences those accusations had on their careers will be one of 22 documentaries heading to the 2023 Toronto International Film Festival. The documentary is titled Sorry/Not Sorry. Remember I told you that? And then Showtime was like, nah. Rolling Stone asked Tom Segura to tell them a little bit about the project Fat Astronauts. And I was right. It's a project with Bert Kreischer. Segura said, it came up on the podcast. Bert floats this idea, and we end up talking about it off mic more extensively. We talk about it more with some producers. We talk about it more with Ethan Cohen, who wrote Tropic Thunder, name dropper. Cohen sends in a draft of a screenplay. I read it. It's hilarious. The feature world is peculiar. It's not a straightforward business. There's so many variables. I've heard nothing but excitement from the whole camp about doing this, and I've been told everybody's gung-ho about doing it, but I'll reserve my real excitement for the day I'm on set doing it. Rolling Stone asked Tom Segura about his transition into acting. Tom said, truly, dude, it's always been what I wanted to do. I moved to LA to become a comedy actor, and stand-up was just working for me, and obviously I enjoy it, so I kept doing that, but I never stopped wanting to be an actor, and I like writing and creating, so that was the project. When I took it out in the studios, they were like, you can act, and I was like, yeah, no kidding. I've been trying to do this for effing 20 years, but I've been on the road. Taylor Tomlinson tells Variety she equates digital work to, quote, doing radio back in the day. You just have to do it to sell tickets. A lot of people, myself included, get overwhelmed with the amount of content you have to produce now, but it's necessary unless you're super famous, and even then you need Instagram. On the plus side, she says the internet has made it so much easier to find your specific audience. Nobody is truly for everyone, and now you don't have to be. Whitney Cummings spoke about social media and told Variety she's way more concerned about disappointing somebody who came to see her because she's working on new stuff and it's not super polished than she ever worries about being canceled by some fake Twitter mob that weren't comedy fans in the first place. She remembers comedian actor Bobby Lee telling her when she started out, don't worry about jokes for the first 2 years, just worry about getting comfortable on stage. Johnny Mac, you never talk about that interview Marc Maron had with Jim Gaffigan a week ago. I know, right? This part I found very interesting. They're talking about Jerry Seinfeld here, as I've been doing. I'll read the Maron lines a little harsher so I don't have to keep going. Jim said, Marc said, I'll start with Marc here. Everybody wasn't doing specials. They were still special. Jim. Well, there was Cosby, Carlin, but my point is, what's the next step? Seinfeld's done a couple specials, but he doesn't feel the need. There's no growth there. He's very anti-growth. Well, no, I actually think he's very much evolved. Into what? Into this guy that says comedy's just for laughs and doesn't have any deeper meaning, and I've just never learned anything from a comic, and it's just to read, and it's ridiculous, and that's our job? Jim, but I think that's his kind of absolutist approach to comedy, but I'm diametrically opposed to that. Now, what I'm saying is if you look at the Jerry Seinfeld of the late 70s, early 80s, and you look at him now, they're very different. Jerry Seinfeld today is much more autobiographical in the 80s. You didn't learn anything about Jerry. I'm sure he's aware of that evolution. I think the greatest compliment to a comic is being able to transcend a decade. So being able to go from the 80s to the 2020s, that's pretty significant. And that's why there are like these comedians that are like the flavor of the year, and then it goes away. But I think that speaks to a work ethic more than evolving. Jim, well, it's a work ethic, but it's also like not listening to the audience, but it's listening to the culture. And also, like all his fans, it's rare. If you come to be a certain way and your fans are kids and you're in college, how do you hold on to them? Because they're 40 now and they don't go to comedy. Jim, yeah, they all moved out of Brooklyn or whatever because they had a couple kids and they moved to Westchester. I think what's also interesting about Jerry is where he's similar to a 90s comic, which you and I are, is that he's a substance over style guy. Jim continued, you'll see even just on social media, there's a lot more crowd work. It's all crowd work, banter stuff, and the whole thing is that style. That's not substance, and I'm not criticizing it. And by the way, Ian Bagg is the best crowd work comedian I've ever seen. Remember Mike Sweeney? Mike Sweeney was amazing. Maron, yeah, he got out a long time ago. The guys who realized early on that trying to be a comedy star who makes money as a stand-up, that's a long shot. I'm going to write, but I understand what you're saying. But I see this whole new generation of social media-driven comedy. It's just this weird attempt at a cash grab, and it's succeeding that there's no organized show business anymore. Marc Maron's WTF guest Jim Gaffigan. Highly, highly recommend you check that out.
I'm Erica, 1/3 of the podcast Books and Betches, a comedy book podcast where we swear, spoil, and we talk about...
Whoa, you cannot say that in this.
What do you mean? That's our slogan. It's our gimmick.
How about we just give some examples of things we talk about?
Well, there's a lot of chaos.
I'm Kristen, and with me I have...
Whopper!
No.
A lot of sidebar conversations.
Are you denying the existence of chupacabras?
You know, Erica, yes, I am.
You can listen to new episodes of the Books and Betches podcast every Tuesday morning, anywhere you get your podcasts.
One way to support the show that's pretty easy. Go to YouTube, find Daily Comedy News, hit subscribe on the page. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so that I can monetize it, and then I can buy my own coffee. And then I don't have to nag you to go to buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. Although, honestly, I'll probably do both, won't I? You will, Johnny Mac. You'll be on here going, hey, why don't you go to buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News and throw $5 in the tip jar, and I'll go to the National Donut Chain, blah, blah, blah. I can see me doing that rap. Yes. Myq Kaplan is apparently giving Hari Kondabolu a run for most serious comedian. Hari's interviews as of late have been a little looser. Myq Kaplan's heading in the other direction. He spoke to the Henley Standard, and he says his brand of comedy makes you think, quoting Myq, philosophy is something that I've enjoyed thinking about for quite a while, both in school and out, because there are so many beautiful, important questions it offers, like, how can we live a meaningful life, and why are we here, and what's going on? He's excited to see what happens at Fringe this year. When we came to the Fringe last time, I experienced so many things. Clowns and dancers and magicians and storytellers and immersive theater experiences and circuses and more. I'm looking forward to experiencing more of those and also things I have no idea about. I guess what I'm saying is I hope to experience things that I've loved that are familiar and things that I will love that are unfamiliar. He adds, there's a quote by a poet named Robert Hass that I love. Repetition makes us feel secure. Variation makes us feel free. So it is true that I like to use my brain or my mind to think about things like, wait, am I using my brain or my mind to think about things? And some of those are things I enjoy sharing in my comedy wherever I go. Believe it or not, he's really funny. But boy, the interviews are serious. Forbes asked Veer Daz, hey, who were the comedians you looked up to growing up? And he said, my top three were Pryor, Carlin, and Eddie Izzard. Carlin for not giving a hoot. Pryor for putting vulnerability into comedy and turning pain into comedy. And Eddie, because he makes you feel like he made it up a second ago, even though it's exquisitely written. What's your favorite drink? Interesting. He said, I'm a beer guy. There's nothing like a Guinness in Black, which I can't seem to find in America. And I'm like, oh, what's a Guinness in Black? I used to drink woodpecker cider with Guinness on top, which I guess is the opposite of what he's talking about. So what's a Guinness in Black? He said it's a black currant syrup, which is ridiculously sweet, and then a Guinness poured on top. The beer becomes purple, and it becomes like a weird Voldemort drink. And then I have a beer I launched called Fack It with 4 A's between the F and the K. I wanted something that met me halfway between beer and cider, so that's my favorite. Yeah, good call. I think we could drink together. Maria Bamford spoke to the Pleasanton Weekly and said, stand-up was great for me as I had difficulty connecting with people on a social level due to OCT intrusive thoughts. The controlled environment of this stage is very calming to me and it remains to this day. She warns you if you're going to see her, though, my act isn't for everyone, so please YouTube Maria Bamford, because I've gotten feedback that I'm odd and wordy, so let that be your guide. She says her approach to comedy has changed as she's grown and become more experienced in the industry. Maria said, my time is done in terms of feeling like I need to be heard. I've already made it 1,000 times over, and I hope to support the next generation. I love performing and creating, but there's less drive in a lovely way. I just taped a special for Comedy Dynamics, and so my current tour is the result of 3 years of writing and performing. I hope to gradually start replacing material, but safe to say the topics of family, relationships, and mental health done with several character act-outs, those will be covered. And that is your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You're going to smash the subscribe button, aren't you? Yes, you are. See you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Marc Francis and host of a new podcast, The Messi Effect. Join us as we take you into the exciting new world of Argentine soccer phenomenon, Lionel Messi. And his new life at Inter Miami will bring you into the glitz, the glamour, the star-studded events, along with the exciting journey to a new world of U.S. soccer and international football with news and stories 3 times a week. Come along for the ride as Messi, Miami, and Major League Soccer experience the journey of a lifetime. Get the Messi Effect wherever you get your podcasts.